Everyone in Manhattan believed they were witnessing a celebration. Crystal chandeliers glowed like captured stars. Gold-rimmed glasses shimmered beneath candlelight. A string quartet played something soft and expensive in the corner of the private VIP dining hall at the Sovereign Room, the kind of place where billionaires made deals that shaped cities. At the head of the table sat King Lucian Valerius. To the human world he was a reclusive tech magnate and foreign investor. To the supernatural world he was far more dangerous. He was the reigning vampire king of the Eastern Dominion, a ruler whose name was whispered in shadowed corridors, whose judgment could end bloodlines. And tonight he was celebrating his engagement. Across from him sat his fiancée, Lady Adrienne Moreau, breathtaking, elegant, poised like a sculpture carved from winter itself. On either side of her sat her parents, Victor and Celeste Moreau, smiling with sharp politeness. Everything looked perfect. Everything felt wrong. Across the room, balancing a silver tray with steady hands, stood Elena Morales, 23 years old, overworked, underpaid, and invisible to nearly everyone in the room. Except she noticed things. Elena had grown up in a cramped apartment in Queens, raised by a grandmother who believed in old remedies, spiritual warnings, and instincts that shouldn't be ignored. Elena worked double shifts to help pay for her younger brother's medical treatments. She endured rude customers, impatient managers, and the quiet humiliation of being treated like background furniture. But she endured it with kindness. And tonight, that kindness would cost her everything. Table 1, her manager whispered sharply. Smile. Speak only if addressed. And don't embarrass us. Elena nodded. She approached. As she neared the table, the temperature seemed to drop. King Lucian sat impossibly still. His dark hair fell neatly over his forehead. His sharp jawline could have been carved from marble. His eyes, cold silver blue, scanned the table with quiet calculation. He did not look like a groom in love. He looked like a king tolerating a political arrangement. Elena began pouring wine, a rare vintage chosen by the Moreau family. The scent hit her instantly. Beneath the rich notes of blackberry and oak was something metallic. Bitter. Wrong. Her heart stuttered. She knew that scent. Not from books. From memory. From her grandmother's herb cabinet, sealed jars labeled in careful handwriting. Wolfsbane. Concentrated. Masked but not enough. Elena's pulse pounded in her ears. She glanced at Lady Adrienne. The bride-to-be was not drinking. Neither were her parents. Only the king's glass was being filled. Lucian reached for it. Elena's hands trembled. If she stayed silent, she kept her job. If she spoke, she risked everything. But when Lucian's eyes briefly met hers, she saw something unexpected. Exhaustion. Isolation. Not cruelty. And suddenly she couldn't look away. She leaned forward under the pretense of adjusting the tablecloth. Her lips barely moved. Your Majesty, she whispered so softly it was almost air. Don't drink it. It's poisoned. Run. She pulled back instantly. Time froze. Lucian's fingers hovered above the glass. His fiancée smiled too sweetly. Is something wrong? Adrielle asked, her tone smooth. Lucian did not answer immediately. Instead he inhaled slowly. Focused. He had lived for centuries. Survived wars. Betrayals. Uprisings. He could detect lies. The waitress was terrified. But she wasn't lying. He lifted the glass closer to his face. And now that she had said it, he could smell it too. Masked. Clever. But present. A paralytic compound, slow acting. Enough to weaken him before the ceremonial blood binding later that evening. His gaze shifted to Victor Moreau. The older vampire's expression did not change. But his fingers tapped once against the table, impatient. Lucian set the glass down. I find myself suddenly uninterested in wine, he said calmly. The room changed. Adrielle's smile faltered for a fraction of a second. Victor leaned forward. Surely you will toast your future, Your Majesty. Lucian rose from his chair. He felt it then. The weakness. Not from the wine. From earlier. The water. He had been dosed before arriving. His knees almost buckled, but centuries of discipline kept him upright. Elena saw it. She moved without thinking. She accidentally dropped a silver serving tray directly between Lucian and Victor. The crash shattered the illusion of civility. In that split second of distraction, Lucian stepped back. Victor stood abruptly. Enough politeness. The glamour faded from Adrielle's eyes, revealing something darker. Possessive. Hungry. You were meant to submit peacefully, she said coldly. Lucian's power flickered weakly beneath his skin. The poison was spreading. He would not win this fight inside a sealed room filled with their loyal guards. Elena made a decision she would never undo. "Fire alarm," she shouted suddenly, pulling the emergency lever near the wall. Sirens erupted. Sprinklers blasted water from above. Chaos exploded. Guests screamed. Security rushed in. In the confusion, Elena grabbed Lucian's arm. "Service exit. Now." He stared at her, astonished that a human girl was commanding him. But he moved. They rushed through the kitchen, slipping on water-slick tiles. Behind them, Victor roared in fury. Outside, rain poured over the city. Lucian leaned heavily against the brick wall of the alley. His vision blurred. "You should not have interfered," he said hoarsely. Elena's heart raced. "I don't like bullies." Black vehicles screeched at the far end of the alley. They were already coming. Lucian's royal car sat waiting, but the driver was slumped over the steering wheel. This had been planned perfectly. Elena looked toward the street. Then at her own dented 2011 Honda parked crookedly by a dumpster. She swallowed. "Get in my car." Lucian blinked slowly. "That rusted vehicle?" "Yes." Headlights flashed at the alley entrance. There was no time. Elena shoved the vampire king of the Eastern Dominion into the passenger seat of her beat-up Honda. She turned the key. The engine coughed once, twice, then roared alive. As shadowed figures rushed forward, Elena slammed the gas. The Honda fishtailed onto the street and disappeared into Manhattan traffic. Lucian's head fell back against the seat. "Why?" he murmured weakly. Elena kept her eyes on the road, hands shaking. "Because someone had to." And behind them, the supernatural world began to fracture. Rain blurred the windshield as Elena gripped the steering wheel like it was the only thing holding the world together. King Lucian Valerius, ruler of the Eastern Dominion, feared by ancient bloodlines, was slumped in the passenger seat of her dented Honda. And he was dying. His breathing came in shallow pulls. His usually flawless pale skin had turned ashen, faint dark veins webbing beneath the surface. "Elena," he murmured, voice barely audible above the storm. She flinched. He remembered her name. "Stay awake," she whispered. "We're almost there." Behind them, headlights weaved aggressively through traffic. They were being followed. Her pulse thundered. She took a sudden left into a narrow side street, then another. She knew these streets. She grew up dodging trouble here. Luxury SUVs didn't handle potholes well. Her old Honda did. After 3 sharp turns and a reckless pass through a yellow light, the headlights disappeared. But Elena didn't slow down. Not until she pulled up outside her small apartment building in Queens. 4 stories. Peeling paint. Flickering hallway lights. The complete opposite of royal. She rushed around to the passenger side and tried to lift him. He was heavier than he looked, solid, unmoving. "Come on," she muttered through clenched teeth. His arm draped over her shoulders. His body felt cold, yet faintly burning at the same time. They staggered up the stairs because the elevator, of course, was broken. By the time they reached her apartment, Elena was trembling with exhaustion. She pushed the door open and helped him onto her small couch. He looked absurd there, a king among chipped furniture and faded curtains. Lucian's eyes fluttered open briefly. "You should have left me," he whispered. "You've placed yourself in danger." Elena locked the door. Too late for that. His body suddenly arched. A growl tore from his throat, raw, primal. Elena stepped back instinctively. His fangs descended. The poison was spreading. She remembered her grandmother's stories. Wolfsbane didn't kill royal vampires easily. It weakened them, paralyzed them, made them vulnerable to binding rituals. Which meant, "They weren't trying to kill you," she said softly. Lucian forced himself upright, though his movements were strained. "No," he answered. "They were trying to enslave me." Her stomach dropped. Adrielle and her parents hadn't wanted marriage. They wanted control. Lucian's breathing grew harsher. "The compound blocks my healing," he said. "I require blood to counteract it." Elena froze. The room went very quiet. He saw the fear flash across her face. "I will not force you," he said, voice suddenly steady despite the pain. "Lock yourself in the bedroom. Leave me." He meant it. Even poisoned and furious, he would not harm her without consent. And that changed something inside her. "You die," she whispered. His jaw tightened. "Better I die free." Silence filled the room. Elena thought of her brother sleeping in the next room. Of her grandmother's voice. "Power does not make someone good. Their choices do." Lucian had every opportunity to take from her. He didn't. He was choosing restraint. And he had trusted her whisper. Elena stepped closer. "If I do this," she said softly, You don't get to turn me into anything. His eyes sharpened slightly. I would never bind you without permission. Another wave of agony bent him forward. Elena's heart pounded. She slowly unbuttoned the top of her uniform collar. Her voice trembled, but she didn't step back. Then don't die. Lucian inhaled. And something changed. Her scent hit him like lightning, warm, bright, electric. Not ordinary. Ancient. His control wavered. Elena, he warned, eyes darkening. She nodded once. Just don't take too much. He moved faster than human sight. 1 second he was across the room. The next, his hands gripped her shoulders, firm but not cruel. His fangs pierced her neck. Pain flared. Sure. Then warmth spread through her veins. Not weakness. Not emptiness. Something deeper. Lucian froze mid-draw. Her blood wasn't normal. It burned. But not like poison. Like power. Old power. Older than his own line. He pulled back immediately, breathing hard. Elena swayed, and he caught her before she fell. Her wound was already closing. Healing faster than any human should. Lucian stared at her in disbelief. What are you? He whispered. Elena blinked, dizzy. A waitress, she murmured weakly. He almost smiled. No. His strength returned rapidly now, far quicker than expected. The gray in his skin faded. The poison retreated. But it wasn't just healing. It was amplifying him. He could feel it. Her blood had accelerated his recovery beyond normal royal limits. Which meant one impossible thing. You carry elder blood, he said quietly. Elena frowned. I carry overdue rent. He studied her face, really studied it. The warmth in her aura. The quiet resilience. The instinct to protect. She didn't know what she was. Which made her vulnerable. And dangerous. Before he could say more, a distant rumble echoed outside. Lucian's expression hardened instantly. He moved to the window. Black vehicles lined the street. Too many. They found us, Elena whispered. Lucian turned back toward her. His silver blue eyes no longer looked distant. They looked focused, protective. You saved my life, he said calmly. And now, he added, stepping toward the door, I will not allow them to take yours. Outside, car doors slammed. Boots hit pavement. The Moreau family had come to finish what they started. Elena swallowed hard. She hadn't just saved a king. She had started a war. The street below Elena's apartment filled with black vehicles. Engines idled like predators growling in the dark. Men in tailored suits stepped out first, not human. Their movements were too synchronized, too precise. Then she stepped out. Lady Adrielle Moreau. Her white engagement dress had been replaced by something darker. Sleek, elegant, battle-ready. Her platinum hair shimmered under the streetlight like frost. But her eyes? They were no longer pretending. They were black. Elena's breath caught in her throat. Lucian stood still beside the window, posture straight now, strength fully restored. The weakness from the poison had vanished, replaced by something far more dangerous. Control. They will not leave without blood, he said quietly. Yours or mine? Elena whispered. His gaze shifted to her. Neither. A thunderous knock hit the building's front entrance. The old door downstairs splintered. Screams echoed from neighboring apartments. Elena's stomach dropped. Innocent people live here, she said, panic rising. Lucian's jaw tightened. The Moreau family had chosen the location deliberately. Force him to surrender. Or risk collateral damage. Cruel. Strategic. Elena stepped back as the hallway outside her apartment filled with footsteps. Her heart pounded so loud she was sure they could hear it. Lucian moved in front of her instinctively, shielding her. 3 heavy blows struck her apartment door. The wood cracked. Adrielle's voice drifted through the splintering frame, smooth, confident. Lucian. This doesn't need to be ugly. The 4th strike shattered the door completely. Wood exploded inward. Victor Moreau stepped through first, tall, imposing, fury carved into every line of his face. Behind him came Celeste. And Adrielle. They paused when they saw Lucian standing upright. Alive. Stronger than expected. Victor's eyes narrowed. That's impossible. Lucian's voice was calm, dangerously calm. You underestimated your poison. Adrielle's gaze shifted past him. To Elena. And everything in her expression changed. Recognition. Then something darker. It's her, Adrielle whispered. Elena stiffened. Lucian felt it too, the shift in the air. Victor inhaled sharply. Elder resonance, he muttered. Lucian's voice dropped an octave. Explain. Adrielle's smile returned, but it trembled slightly. "You don't know?" she asked softly. "You drank from her, didn't you?" Lucian did not respond, but his silence confirmed it. Adrielle laughed, though it lacked her usual poise. "Oh, Lucian. You always believed your line was the last of the pure ancient houses." Victor stepped forward. "But centuries ago one elder house escaped extinction." Elena shook her head. "I don't know what you're talking about." Celeste's cold eyes locked onto her. The Corvin bloodline. The name hit Lucian like a memory he hadn't touched in hundreds of years. Corvin. The first royal bloodline that could strengthen others. Or destroy them. Elena's grandmother's stories. Her warnings. Her strange knowledge of herbs. Her insistence on humility. Lucian turned slowly toward Elena. "Your last name?" he said quietly. "Morales isn't your birth name, is it?" Elena's lips parted. "My grandmother changed it," she whispered. "She said it kept us safe." Adrielle's composure cracked fully now. "You were supposed to die with the rest of them," she snapped. "We hunted the Corvin line for centuries." Lucian's expression shifted. Cold. Calculating. "You poisoned me because you feared losing influence," he said to Victor. "But you came tonight prepared for something else." Victor's gaze darkened. "We believed rumors. That one Corvin descendant survived." He looked at Elena like she was both treasure and threat. "Your blood doesn't just heal. It amplifies royal power." Lucian felt it again, the lingering strength coursing through him. It wasn't imagination. Elena's blood had restored him beyond baseline, which meant, if the Moreaus controlled her, they could dominate every royal house. Elena backed away, heart racing. "I'm not a weapon." Adrielle's smile was vicious. "You are exactly that." Victor lunged first. Lucian moved faster. The apartment exploded into motion. Victor slammed into Lucian with enough force to crack the wall behind them. Celeste rushed toward Elena. Elena stumbled back, and something inside her snapped. Not fear. Not panic. Instinct. Celeste grabbed her wrist. But instead of weakness, a pulse of energy surged from Elena's skin. Bright. White. Ancient. Celeste screamed as she was thrown backward violently into the hallway. Everyone froze. Elena stared at her own hands. Light shimmered faintly beneath her skin, then faded. Lucian turned slowly toward her. Or replaced calculation. "You've awakened," he said quietly. Adrielle's eyes widened in horror. "No," she whispered. Victor roared and attacked again, but Lucian was no longer weakened. He moved with terrifying precision. One strike. Victor crashed through the apartment wall into the neighboring unit. Lucian turned back to Adrielle. "This engagement is over." Adrielle's fury twisted into desperation. "You need her," she shouted. "Without alliance, the other houses will rise against you." Lucian stepped beside Elena. Not in front of her. Beside her. "We do not need fear to rule," he said calmly. Adrielle looked at Elena one last time, hatred burning. "This isn't over." She vanished in a blur of shadow. The remaining guards retreated instantly. Silence fell. The apartment was destroyed. Walls cracked. Furniture overturned. Sirens wailed in the distance, human authorities approaching. Elena stood shaking in the middle of the chaos. "I didn't know I could do that," she whispered. Lucian faced her fully now. No distance. No cold detachment. Only clarity. "They hunted your bloodline because it was never meant to be controlled," he said softly. Elena swallowed. "So what happens now?" Lucian stepped closer. Careful. Measured. "They will not stop," he said. "And neither will I." His voice shifted, not commanding. Promising. "You are not their weapon." He met her eyes. "You are under my protection." Outside, red and blue lights flashed. The human world was waking up to the aftermath. And the supernatural world had just learned something far more dangerous than a poison king. The lost queen blood had returned. The night after the attack, Elena did not sleep. How could she? Her apartment was half destroyed. Police had come and gone. Neighbors whispered. Insurance forms sat untouched on the counter. And standing in her kitchen, tall, composed, devastatingly calm, was a vampire king. Lucian had insisted on repairs being handled quietly by private contractors. By morning, the visible damage was gone. But nothing felt normal. Elena stood near the window, watching the sunrise bleed soft pink across Queens. "You can't stay here," Lucian said gently. She turned. "Because they'll come back?" "Yes." He didn't soften the truth. "They will not risk losing you." Elena crossed her arms. "I didn't ask to be part of any of this." Lucian stepped closer, though he kept a respectful distance. I know. And for once he looked almost regretful. She studied him. The cold king from the restaurant felt different now. Still powerful. Still controlled. But no longer distant. What happens if I go with you? She asked. Lucian's gaze sharpened. You will stand before the royal court. Her stomach flipped. That sounds intense. It is. The vampire royal court was older than governments. Older than modern cities. It ruled from the shadows, unseen, calculating, balanced by fragile alliances between ancient houses. And they would not ignore the reappearance of Corvin blood. They may see you as an asset, Lucian said carefully. Or a threat. Elena let out a slow breath. And what do you see me as? Silence stretched between them. Lucian's answer came low and steady. A person who chose courage over safety. Her chest tightened unexpectedly. Slow burn. Not romance. Respect. He extended his hand. Come with me. I will not let them harm you. Elena hesitated only a second before placing her hand in his. The air shifted. Not magic. Something quieter. Trust. They traveled not in luxury, but discretion. Lucian avoided main roads. Avoided attention. By nightfall, they reached the outskirts of the city where abandoned cathedrals and forgotten architecture blended into shadow. Hidden beneath one such structure lay the Court of Shadows. The entrance opened only for Lucian. Stone doors slid apart silently. Elena stepped inside and her breath caught. The chamber was massive, circular, lit by suspended crystal orbs that glowed with blue fire. Ancient sigils lined the walls. A throne carved from obsidian stood at the center. Around it, elevated platforms held representatives from the 5 remaining royal houses. They were already waiting. Whispers echoed as Lucian entered. Then silence. Lucian walked with measured authority. Elena walked beside him, not behind. That alone sent ripples through the chamber. An elder with silver hair and sharp eyes stood first. Your Majesty, he said formally. You were reported dead. Lucian's voice carried effortlessly. Clearly I am not. Murmurs. Another voice, female, colder, cut through the chamber. And the human? All eyes turned to Elena. She felt small. But she did not lower her gaze. Lucian spoke before anyone else could. She is Elena Corvin. Gasped. Even fear. The silver-haired elder stood straighter. The Corvin line was extinguished. So we believed, Lucian replied. A ripple of tension moved through the court. The Corvin bloodline had once balanced royal power, preventing tyranny by strengthening rulers who chose justice, and weakening those who sought domination. Their extinction had shifted the balance centuries ago. Which meant Elena's presence threatened more than the Moreau family. It threatened any house that abused its authority. The female elder stepped forward. If she is truly Corvin, she said carefully, then her blood binds with royal authority. Elena swallowed. I don't want to bind anyone, she said clearly. The chamber quieted again. Lucian's eyes flickered briefly toward her. Pride. The silver-haired elder studied her. Power does not require desire, he said. It exists regardless. Another house representative spoke up. The Moreau family has already accused her of conspiracy. Lucian's expression hardened. The Moreau family attempted treason. Shock again. He continued calmly. They poisoned their king. They sought blood-binding enslavement. Silence fell like a blade. That accusation could justify war. The court shifted uneasily. Adriel's father Victor was powerful, influential. Removing him would fracture alliances. Elena felt the weight of politics pressing down. This wasn't just about her. It was about stability, balance. Lucian turned toward the throne, then did something no one expected. He did not sit. Instead he faced the court. Elena Corvin saved my life, he said evenly. A king admitting vulnerability. Unheard of. She acted with no promise of reward. No knowledge of gain. His voice deepened. The Corvin bloodline once strengthened the just. Perhaps it is no coincidence she appeared when betrayal threatened this court. Murmurs grew louder. The female elder narrowed her eyes. You propose what? Lucian's answer was measured. I propose protection. A wave of surprise swept the chamber. She will remain under my guardianship. Elena blinked. Guardianship? Not ownership. Not binding. Protection. The silver-haired elder considered carefully. And if she refuses? Lucian did not hesitate. Then she walks free. That stunned even Elena. He would risk losing the advantage. Because choice mattered. The court fell into heated whispers. Finally, the eldest among them raised his hand. It will be put to vote. Tension thickened. Elena stood still, heart racing. This was bigger than her apartment. Bigger than one betrayal. The decision would determine whether the ancient world moved toward justice, or deeper into corruption. One by one, hands lifted. Some reluctant. Some calculating. Some curious. When the final vote was counted, the silver-haired elder turned back toward Lucian. By narrow majority, he announced, Elena Corvin will be placed under royal protection. The Moreau house is summoned for inquiry. A quiet wave of shock moved through the chamber. Lucian inclined his head. But he did not smile. Because this wasn't over. As the court began to disperse, Elena exhaled slowly. You didn't have to risk your position, she whispered. Lucian turned toward her. For centuries, he said quietly, kings ruled by fear. His silver-blue eyes softened. I would prefer something different. Elena held his gaze. And for the first time the space between them felt less like a contract, and more like possibility. But high above the chamber, unseen in the shadows, a messenger slipped away unnoticed, carrying news. The Moreau family would not accept defeat quietly. And somewhere beyond the court's influence, alliances were already forming. The war had moved from poison to politics. And Elena Corvin had just become the center of it. Protection. It sounded safe. It sounded simple. But Elena quickly learned that living under royal protection did not mean living in peace. 3 nights after the court's decision, the supernatural world exploded with rumor. Whispers traveled through hidden networks. Ancient houses debated behind locked doors. And the Moreau family did what powerful enemies often do when they lose in private. They attacked in public. Elena stood on the balcony of Lucian's private estate, a Gothic fortress hidden beyond city limits, shielded from human eyes. The air was colder here. Quieter. Lucian approached her silently. You should not read it, he said. She didn't turn around. I already have. On every underground supernatural channel, the accusation had spread. The vampire king had been manipulated by a human girl. That she seduced him. Poisoned him. Used forbidden magic. That the Corvin bloodline was unstable. Dangerous. Uncontrollable. Victor Moreau had formally challenged Lucian's judgment before allied houses. It wasn't just about power anymore. It was about credibility. They want you to appear weak, Elena said softly. Lucian's voice was steady. They want you isolated. She finally turned to face him. I won't hide behind guards. His expression tightened. This is not about pride. It's about truth. She stepped closer. If I stay silent, they control the story. Lucian studied her carefully. You are not trained for political warfare. Elena lifted her chin. I've survived worse than politics. Her childhood. Her mother walking out. Her grandmother working 3 jobs. Doctors dismissing her brother because of money. She knew what it felt like to be underestimated. And she knew what it meant to endure. Lucian saw it in her eyes. Not recklessness. Conviction. What do you intend? He asked. Elena inhaled slowly. Let them see me. 2 nights later, the court reconvened. But this time it wasn't hidden. Representatives from allied houses gathered openly in the grand chamber. Whispers filled the air as Lucian entered. And beside him, Elena. Not dressed like royalty. Not pretending to be something she wasn't. She wore a simple dark gown. No crown. No jewels. Just quiet strength. The murmurs grew louder. Victor Moreau stood at the far end of the chamber, fury barely contained behind a polished smile. So, Victor began smoothly, the human speaks now? Elena stepped forward before Lucian could respond. I do. Her voice didn't shake. You accused me of manipulation. Victor's eyes narrowed. Your presence destabilizes our balance. Elena met his gaze. Your attempt to enslave your king destabilized it first. Gasps rippled across the chamber. Direct. Unflinching. Victor's expression hardened. You presume much for someone who discovered her lineage 3 nights ago. Elena swallowed, then answered honestly. I don't understand everything about this world. Silence fell. But I understand choice. She turned slowly, addressing the entire court. I was a waitress last week. Invisible. Replaceable. Her voice softened but carried. No power. No protection. She looked at Lucian briefly, then back to the court. I didn't whisper that warning because I wanted influence. She looked directly at Victor. I did it because it was wrong. The chamber stilled. Elena continued. If your strength depends on control and fear, then maybe the balance needs to change. The female elder from before leaned forward. You speak boldly for someone untrained. Elena nodded slightly. Then train me. That shifted the room. Victor laughed sharply. Naive child. Power devours the unprepared. Elena's eyes flashed faintly, not bright like before, but present. I'm not asking for power, she said calmly. I'm asking for accountability. Lucian felt something unfamiliar stir in his chest. Pride. Not possessive. Not strategic. Victor's patience snapped. You think because your blood amplifies strength, you can stand among us? Elena stepped closer, enough that tension crackled. No, she said quietly. I stand here because you thought I wouldn't. Silence. Heavy. Measured. The silver-haired elder finally rose. The Corvin line historically served as balance. Not ruler. Elena nodded. Then let me serve balance. Lucian's gaze shifted sharply. She was not asking for his protection. She was defining her own role. The elder continued slowly, if you seek legitimacy, you must undergo the trial of resonance. The chamber stirred. It was ancient. Dangerous. A ritual that tested lineage truth and spiritual alignment. Failure could mean exile. Or worse. Lucian stepped forward immediately. I will not permit. Elena gently touched his arm. The smallest contact. But it silenced him. Her eyes met his. Trust me. Slowly he stepped back. Victor's smile returned, sharp and satisfied. Let her, he said. He was certain she would fail. The elder raised his staff. Then it is decided. 3 nights from now, Elena Corvin will stand before the trial. The court began to disperse. Whispers spread rapidly. Elena exhaled only when the chamber emptied. Lucian approached her. That ritual can expose weakness, he said quietly. She nodded. Then I'll face it. He studied her carefully. You could have chosen safety. Elena offered a faint smile. I've never had safety. His expression softened, subtly. For centuries, he said, voice low, I believed power required distance. She tilted her head slightly. And now? Lucian held her gaze. Now I believe power requires integrity. A slow, quiet shift settled between them. Not romance declared, but something deeper. Mutual respect. Partnership forming intention. But high above the court, Victor Moreau stood in shadow, speaking quietly to an unseen ally. She will not survive the trial, he murmured, because the trial did not only test blood, it tested soul. And Victor had already ensured it would not be fair. Elena thought she was stepping into legitimacy. She was walking into a trap. The chamber was darker than before. No political whispers. No spectators beyond the ruling houses. Tonight was ancient. Raw. Unforgiving. At the center of the circular court stood a stone platform carved with sigils older than any royal bloodline present. Blue fire burned in suspended braziers overhead, casting shifting shadows across the walls. Elena stood alone on the platform. Lucian remained at the edge of the chamber. Not beside her. The trial required separation. And it was killing him. The silver-haired elder raised his staff. The trial of resonance determines truth of lineage and purity of intent, he declared. No deception survives it. No corruption hides from it. Victor Moreau watched from across the chamber, his expression calm. Too calm. Elena inhaled slowly. 3 nights ago she was serving wine. Now she stood before creatures centuries old, about to prove she belonged in a world she never asked to join. The elder struck the platform with his staff. The sigils ignited. Light surged upward, surrounding Elena in a column of silver-blue energy. Pain shot through her body. Not physical. Deeper. Memories flooded her mind. Her childhood apartment. Her grandmother teaching her herbs at the kitchen table. Her brother's hospital bills. The humiliation at work. The whisper in the restaurant. Lucian collapsing in her arms. The court. Every choice. Every fear. The light intensified. The chamber trembled. Then, something changed. The energy shifted from silver blue to gold. A color no one had seen in centuries. Gasps echoed through the court. Lucian's heart pounded. Victor's expression faltered for the first time. The golden light expanded outward, touching the sigils carved into the chamber walls. And the sigils responded. They glowed brighter. Warmer. Stronger. The elder's eyes widened. Impossible. The trial was not only confirming her bloodline. It was amplifying the entire chamber. Strengthening it. Elena felt something awaken fully inside her. Not rage. Not domination. Balance. Her voice carried without her raising it. I do not seek a throne, she said, though her lips barely moved. I seek fairness. The golden light pulsed, and suddenly, a shadow flickered within it. Dark, twisted, foreign. The elder stiffened. That is not from her. The golden energy recoiled violently around a black thread embedded in the ritual circle. Lucian's eyes snapped to Victor. Victor stepped back instinctively. The black thread was sabotage. An ancient corruption spell woven into the trial itself. Designed to distort the results. To break her spirit. The golden light surged again, but this time it did not burn Elena. It attacked the corruption. The chamber shook as the dark thread was ripped from the stone platform like rot pulled from bone. Victor shouted in fury. The spell snapped back toward its caster. Straight to him. The black energy wrapped around Victor's arm, exposing the binding mark hidden beneath his sleeve. Proof. Gasps erupted. You tampered with the trial, the elder thundered. Victor struggled against the backlash of his own magic. You would trust a human over me? He roared. Lucian stepped forward at last. His voice was no longer calm. It was royal. You attempted to enslave your king. You corrupted sacred law. You endangered this court. Victor's power flared wildly, but it was unstable. The golden light from Elena intensified. Not attacking. Balancing. It dampened Victor's chaos. Weakened his rage. Without violence. Without cruelty. The elder struck his staff again. Victor Moreau is stripped of title and authority. Silence. Celeste lowered her gaze. Adrielle stood frozen, her arrogance shattered. Victor fell to one knee, not from physical force, but because his influence had evaporated. The golden light slowly dimmed around Elena. The sigils faded. The trial was complete. She collapsed, and Lucian reached her before she touched the stone. He held her carefully as though she were both fragile and sacred. Her eyes fluttered open. Did I pass? She whispered weakly. A faint smile touched his lips, something rare. You did more than pass. The elder approached slowly. The Corvin line was never meant to rule, he said softly. It was meant to restore equilibrium. He bowed his head slightly toward Elena. Balance has returned. The court followed. One by one. Not kneeling to a queen, but acknowledging something older than power. Respect. Victor was escorted away, no dramatic execution. No spectacle. Justice had been served through truth. The chamber began to empty. Lucian helped Elena to her feet. She was exhausted, but standing. You could have stayed hidden, he said quietly. She looked up at him. And let fear win? He studied her for a long moment. For centuries, he said, voice lower now private, I believe distance kept rulers strong. His thumb brushed lightly against her wrist, subtle, careful. You proved strength can stand beside someone, not above them. Her heart skipped. The world felt quieter suddenly. No politics. No war. Just two people who had chosen integrity. You don't need to protect me from everything, she said gently. His eyes softened. I know. Pause. But I would still like to. Not ownership. Not control. Just. Elena smiled faintly. Then we protect the court. Together. The word lingered between them. Together. Not rushed. Not dramatic. Slow. Earned. Outside, dawn began to break over the hidden cathedral. The supernatural world would continue. There would be challenges, opposition, politics. But something fundamental had shifted. A king had chosen humility. A human girl had chosen courage. And power had bent toward justice instead of domination. Elena looked at the rising light filtering through ancient stone. She was still a waitress at heart. Still the girl who believed kindness mattered. But now she understood something deeper. The powerless only remain powerless when they stay silent. She had whispered once. And that whisper had changed a kingdom. Lucian stood beside her as the first rays of morning touched the chamber walls. The age of fear had begun to crack. And the age of balance had begun.